Hello, dear viewer, dear listener. My name is once again is Mampulu Kiluruma Mokobe. Welcome to this lovely show of ours, Mokobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. Sometimes when somebody keeps delivering the goods, you're tempted to keep bringing them back. This is actually a third appearance by my good friend and also educator, trainer, and insurance expert, Mohomutsi France. Welcome for the third time.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Mo. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here. I mean, this is the third time, and I do believe that the first and the second we added value, and people were able to get some insights and knowledge on certain topics that we actually have some insights on. So
there are certain topics that really keep the people coming back. I think the topic of emotional intelligence is one such topic which we are tackling today.
Wow.
I had the privilege of attending one of your sessions where you had our mother, Mastwilo,
yes,
present beautifully on the subject of emotional intelligence. I was so inspired. I've delivered 10 nuggets of wisdom and emotional intelligence.
Wow.
But the subject is so important that we can never do it enough justice.
Definitely.
So I've called you once again, and you've gladly agreed to come and share on this particular topic. Why do you think emotional intelligence generally is so important before we go deeper?
Yeah, I mean, it's very important. I don't know, this time around I don't introduce myself. I think in the past 2 videos that I did, I like talking about keyword. Maybe let me just say that.
Say a little bit about keyword.
Yeah.
Right. It's just that you are now part of the family.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot for welcoming me. I am Mohomutsi Patrick France from a company called Key Wealth Group of Companies. I actually founded the company and I'm the director, and we've been growing well. We specialize in advisory, training, and risk management. As you were saying, I'm an expert in that, and clearly it shows that we have made our impact and our mark in the industry, not only financial services but also training. And we're privileged also to train your staff on emotional intelligence. To us, it shows that you are also seeing the confidence, you are having the confidence in us to be able to deliver.
Actually, I think we're pushing you now to do something on customer service.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great.
Before the window closes for this year.
Yeah, perfect. We'll definitely
Let's talk about the issue of more emotional intelligence and how it affects financial well-being. Are the two inextricably interlinked?
They are, because if you think of our emotions and you think about our financial well-being, it's in the issue that most people, when they have no money, they feel a certain way, and when they have money, that mood, they change the mood. I mean, we always make a joke and say when people have money, they even change the way they walk. Because money gives you that confidence. And I remember Zig Ziglar said, money is not everything, but it's right there with oxygen. And we see people now treating money as something that changes the way they feel and the way in which they approach life. And we always say that you can't worship two masters. You can't worship God and money. You have to worship God, and money has to serve you. But we have realized that the lack and you having money and the lack of money has a way in which it affects the mood and the way people feel. And we have realized also that most of the people that are positioning themselves well in selling any product, they are tapping into the emotional, because people make emotional decisions. And I always say that people, because I'm also a salesman, I've realized that we sell logically, but people buy emotionally. Yeah. And have you heard of a statement that says people don't buy what you're selling, they buy why you're selling it?
Wow.
Because the why is that people make emotional decisions.
Right.
In everything, in
I think
all
people
aspects
are
of their
going to
life.
understand this better when you go deeper. Let's start going deeper. Number one, most people's happiness is derived from lack or availability of money.
Yes.
Lack versus availability. Are you sure? Because I read somewhere that one can never buy happiness.
One can never buy happiness, but you see, it's said by people that don't have money. People that have money have realized that I can go to places that I can go to if I can not pay and go to any place that I want if I have money. But here's the thing: you can still have a lot of money and still not happy, and you're still not happy, because happiness comes from within. Even motivation, we talk about external motivation and intrinsic motivation. So here's the thing about the relationship between money and emotions. You find that no matter how much you make, if you haven't made peace with the demons that are within you, that's now emotional intelligence, you will still feel the lack and still be disappointed in many things because you look at life in a negative way. Look, money itself doesn't buy happiness at the end of the day, but at least it takes you to places that you want. But the question is, are you then going to still be, people like complaining, and I remember I took someone to a certain place and they still complain even though the place was different, way different from where they are used to. Why? Because complaining is a habit. There are certain things that affect us from achieving and being happy of what we have, because we're continuously complaining. So that's the thing. What about our emotions and money? Here's the other thing. Because I'm an entrepreneur, I've realized that before mid-month, I'm happy because I want the job to be done and things are going nicely from my point of view. At the end of the month, because I'm supposed to be paying salaries, I figure out now money is going to go out of my pocket. But here's the thing about staff. It's opposite from the staff. During the month, they think that they're working a lot, but the month end they're happy because they're being paid. So ask yourself, why is it that people are happy when they receive an income? That means money has a way of triggering the happiness in them. And I think I realize why in America or in other countries they pay like weekly, because they realize that the moment you pay someone, you jumpstart the happiness within them. It's like they're now paying weekly. They don't have to wait for the month end for people to be happy. And when people are happy, they do the job.
Wow.
And people are always looking for more money and thinking.
Would you advise that we adopt that in Botswana?
Kind of. Actually, at some point I thought of adopting it because I've realized that there's a relationship between happiness and money. That people, when they have money, they kind of start thinking in a better way because they don't have to complain about anything. They think, no, now I can buy things for myself. And that happiness, that energy is what I want to tap in and say, you have that energy, you can even push it to your work.
And is there anything to stop you from doing it?
Nothing, because I think even the BURS tax table allows you to calculate tax on a weekly basis.
Okay. Yeah. Number 2, personal finance is 80% behavior and 20% head knowledge.
Yes.
See, is this a conclusion you've arrived at?
Many financial advisors and many researchers have arrived at that conclusion because money follows habits. And because money follows habits, habits are wired over time. And because these are programs that are wired over time. And I always tell people that poverty is also a program. So if you think of it, we've been told many things as we grew up, that money is never enough.
It's the root of all evil.
It's the root of all evil. Money is not. Money doesn't grow on trees and all those other stuff. And we always feel that lack within us.
Mammon is associated with the devil. Sometimes.
Yes. So if you think of it, millions of and there's something interesting here that I can also share with you. It says that millions of years of evolution, decades of conditioning in our families, and consistent reinforcement of behavior patterns create ingrained ways of perceiving events. And this applies to money issues. So clearly, it means that our perception, our belief system, ideologies, and philosophies about money have been affected by our history. So you find that now we've got habits that makes us spend money in a certain way. And those habits have to do with how we behave. So behavior is the one that controls how we spend money. For example, we can teach you a lot about money, what is debt, how money works, and everything. But if you don't change your behavior, your old self will still be strong enough to be able to spend money. If let's say you've got a behavior of or maybe a habit of spending, maybe shopping, what will then happen is your money will directly be spent, most of it through a habit of shopping. If you have a habit of drinking, a habit of many habits.
Women talk of shopping as therapy,
as they call it.
It's retail therapy.
They call it retail therapy. But what happens after you spend money? Most people, they're using credit cards to but it's a short-lived happiness. It's a short-lived therapy. So you realize that no matter how we teach you, if you don't change the habits and the behavior and the way you look at things, nothing will change because your old self is too strong. The reason why it is 20% head knowledge is that you can have all the knowledge about money and everything, but what matters is how you look at money and how you've been wired about issues of money. Yeah. Look, even there's a famous book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, that says you can earn so much money But if you're still making poor decisions unconsciously, you will forever be poor because you have been wired.
It's about programming.
It's about programming, actually. Programming its habits. You've been programmed for so long. Like here, I was talking about reinforcement of behavior over time, and we're able to. We're now started looking at money from the points of lack, not abundance. And now what we then do is that in itself is how we spend money. We're always never accumulating because we always think that money is never enough. And by the way, if you think that is never enough, it will never be enough.
You say we buy emotions. Explain that. How do we buy emotions?
We do buy emotions, and there's.
I mean, we buy emotionally.
We buy emotionally. Remember that I said earlier that the reason why you're selling a service or a product is not the reason why the client is buying, and people don't buy what you're selling; they buy why you're selling it. The why part is an emotional part of things. Over time, I realized that as a salesman, I realized that there's the skeptical part of the brain and the emotional part of the brain. So when you sell something to someone, they're listening to you with the skeptical part. But the trick is how do you then move to the emotional part? Because the emotional part is the one that makes decisions. We make decisions emotionally. For example, when someone buys a house, let's say it's a couple and you want to sell a house to them, who do you think you're going to talk to convince them to buy a house? Is it the man or the woman?
I think the woman.
Yeah, because why? She attaches emotions to the kitchen.
She's also the Minister of Home Affairs.
Oh, we can say that. We can say that. But you realize that emotions have a big role to play. For example, you go into a shop, and this example we gave, I think, in the first video, that you find that bread, which is what a lot of people buy, is put at the back, and then the machine that slices bread is put at the front. Why? So that they play with your emotions, because they know that emotions play a bigger role in making a decision.
Explain that one about the bread and the slice.
Yeah, because when you get into a shop, you go pick up the bread. It's at the back. The colors in the shop and everything that happens in the shop, you do play with your emotions, and you figure out, oh, I need that, oh, I forgot this. So you trigger something and you want to buy. There's an attack. See, the way
So
you
does
shelf.
that slicing machine remind you to go and get the bread or what?
No, it's strategically positioned so that you go back, you go at the back, and in between there are many shelves.
Oh,
so you're able. Now it
so
triggers.
they put the two so far apart.
Yes.
So that in the middle you can do.
You are
You're enticed by other things.
Yes.
Okay.
In actual fact, it speaks to even what we're going to talk about in the next nuggets of the psychology. Maybe you want to.
Yeah, psychology of buying. You need to understand it. What is the psychology of buying?
Yeah, there is, because you see, people that sell you stuff have already studied this. They've already studied that most people the reason why they are buying is because of this. So now they're positioning, even the word sale, for example. Sale. When something is written sale, it doesn't mean that you can afford it, but because they know when it's written sale, it will trigger something in you and you think that you are saving money. That's an emotional part of it. And when for example, people use something called bargain hunting, they go from shop to shop comparing prices. Why? Because in themselves they feel good when they save money. So they think, if I go to the next store, I'll be able to save money.
Forget about the amount of petrol they're spending.
Forget about the amount of petrol they're spending. Yes. And then also, when you talk about the psychology of buying, have you realized that you spend? Okay, let me ask you a question. You spend a lot of money when you have a card or when you have the cash? Let's say when you go into a shop.
I guess the cash.
You think the cash?
No, but the card also.
The card.
Because the card seems to be unlimited.
Yes, and you realize that now shops are giving you cards to swipe because they've realized that when you have the card, you simply swipe, and you like many things in the store, and you're able to swipe, and most of those cards are credit cards, and you spend money that you don't have to buy things that you don't need, mostly to impress people you don't like. But if you think of it,
say that again slowly.
They say you spend money that you don't have. That means spending debt to buy things that you don't necessarily need, to buy things that you don't need, like I said, and impress people that you don't like. So you kind of spending money you don't have, but then you're gonna pay that because it's compounded. There's interest that is put in there. So when you have the cash, at least when it's done, it's done. You know. So people tend to have, and the psychology of spending also speaks to, you know, when people sell something to you, they use what is called desire or fear. So that speaks to emotions. The desire to have something. That is used by luxury stores, designer stores, or maybe anything that you want, or even expensive cars. However, you desire to have something, so it works with your emotions. The fear of loss, meaning that if you don't get this, then this is what happens. See, that speaks to now you thinking, if I'm not associated with this particular product, or if I don't buy this particular product, clearly I'm losing out, or I'm gonna lose in the event something happens. So those are two things: desire and fear. So those deals with emotions. And by the way, people that sell you stuff have understood this. The question is, do you understand it
You
yourself?
say the people who make you buy things, the service providers, they tap on your happy hormones. First define what happy hormones are.
Actually, they are happy hormones within the body, because the way the human mind is related to the body is in such a way that there's a thought, and then once you think of something, the brain sends a signal to the body and says produce a hormone that makes you feel a certain way. For example, you go to, let's say, Lions Park, and you see a roller coaster. Your mind says, I want to ride a roller coaster, and then the brain will send a signal to the body and say produce a hormone, adrenaline, and then you feel energized. You want to ride it. Now there are 4 happy hormones,
Namely?
Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And by the way, dopamine is a reward hormone. That's why people always post something and they go back and see how many likes they have. They're addicted to dopamine because you feel rewarded. They use it mostly in gamification, when you move from one level to the next. So once you're addicted to that, you always want the next thing after the next, a better thing. Like, for example, you have an iPhone, and the next thing they release another one. You get addicted to the best. It's like you are rewarding yourself by upgrading to the next one. So they use that to make sure that you buy. The second one, oxytocin, which it's a love hormone. It's usually produced when you hug someone or you touch someone you love, or during sex, or after childbirth, or it's a love hormone. So basically it is used when you love something. So once they tap into, they see that you love something, then you are able. In actual fact, as a salesman, I used to use that a lot. I used to make sure when I go to your office,
using that to your audience at the moment.
Kind of.
They are wondering to themselves, where can we find keywords?
That's
to
the
learn
thing.
more about this.
Learn more about this.
Yeah.
So when I get to your office and I see that you have got a picture of your beautiful baby, and I call you Mr. Mohobe, the moment I ask you what's the name of your child, let's say you tell me maybe, or maybe
well, he was once baby Sekhele.
or maybe let's talk about the last born, Khosigadi. Then I'll say Raho Khosigadi. I've actually tapped into and I've activated the oxytocin in you. When we talk about a certain product, we're no longer talking about the product, we're talking about Khosigadi. And because you love her, you'll want to buy the product for her. So I've activated that. And then the third one is serotonin. Is a mood stabilizer. So people feel like you talked about retail therapy earlier.
Yeah,
that's the mood kind of thing. When you're in a bad mood, so it's responsible for either you're in a good mood or bad mood. So if you're in a good mood, or if you're in a bad mood, they use it. They know it. Some shops even write retail therapy.
So for you to survive and to do well financially, you have to understand this. You have to master these emotions.
But then the thing is, like I always tell people, for you to be successful in anything, you have to have the understanding of how it works. So, are people self-aware enough that they can activate these happy hormones without necessarily spending money, without necessarily being caught in a trap of either sale or any other thing that people that are selling stuff have actually realized? People that create products know these things, but do you know yourself well? Because then you find that but really meaning that you never know where your money has gone, just because you were impulsively buying because someone activated your hormones by positioning things.
Let's go to this next one of debt, where people get into debt, mostly into debt that they can't afford. I think here you say most of our debts are because of our inability to manage our emotions. This one I didn't quite grasp when we were preparing for this. How do you mean that most of our debts are because we can't manage our emotions?
Yeah, because you see, the money is not a problem. The problem comes with things that we want. Remember, I'm not saying what we need. The problem comes with things that we want. And those things pivot mostly from trying to please ourselves. For example, you get a job, and the first thing you do, you buy a car to show that now I'm working. So you see, because you are unable,
like you want to show off,
kind of, because now you are unable to control your emotion of trying to get that, because it's fueled by because you want to probably please yourself to see that you have arrived. You're unable to manage that. then you're going to go into debt because you're going to go get a loan and buy that car. So most of us, even when we get into shops, we do any purchases, whatever, we're unable to buy to manage our emotions. And that's what, like we said earlier, people capitalize on. And like I said, that we make emotional decisions. Everything that we purchase is attached to emotions somehow. So once you manage or you strengthen your emotional intelligence, then you are able to analyze. Because remember, emotional intelligence is about either being responsive, that means you're analyzing things, or being reactive. And being reactive, it means impulsive buying and reflect, all those other stuff are pivoted from being reactive. And when you are reactive, is when you see something you buy.
It's more rational.
This is more rational because this involves analyzing. For example, if you go into a shop and you want something, you can go back. Just give yourself 24 hours to think, do I really need this? You'll figure out after 24 hours that maybe I think I was just about to make a reactive decision, which is more emotional. So if you manage your emotions, you are able, and also managing emotions means that you are able to see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, because you are more analytical.
Yeah. So, like, people will quite often get into mortgages they can't afford,
Yes.
or buy cars they can't afford.
Yeah.
Explain the emotional part. Is it all about trying to impress the Joneses, so to speak?
It's more of, I'm trying to fill a void in myself, that probably I grew up in a smaller house. Now when I work, I want to be able to live in a house that I could afford. But it doesn't mean you can afford, because clearly that is not your house, it belongs to the bank. So it's an issue of, I want to live a better lifestyle, and all that is driven by emotion. I want to drive a better car, all that is driven by emotion. So you find that
So people can't distinguish between their wants and their needs. Wants, I assume, are more emotional. Needs are more rational.
if you think of the Maslow hierarchy of needs, the bottom ones, which is food, shelter, those are the ones that you
Food, shelter, and clothing.
and clothing. You think of them more rationally. But most of the stuff, when you go up the hierarchy, there's respect, there's although being respected in the society and all that. Those are more now needs, and are more wants. Sorry, we said needs are more rational, right? Do we say that?
Yes.
And then wants are more emotional.
Okay.
Because then you want to drive a certain car because then you want to be respected in the society, or maybe it fulfills what you like yourself.
Some emptiness
You
inside.
sometimes you can afford it, sometimes you don't afford it. But the question then still is, why did you make the decision to buy it? It was probably motivated by the happy hormone that we talked about. When you get into this car, it makes me feel good.
I think we're getting to a solution stage, and here you suggest people should do a self-assessment
Yes.
to determine their emotional, I suppose you want to say their emotional weak points,
Kind
or
of. Yeah.
to determine their beliefs and so on and so that they can be wealthy.
Yes.
Explain that.
Yeah. One thing we should realize is that because we said money follows habits, and habits were built through programs, hardwired behaviors from childhood. First of all, you need to introspect basically and figure out, where did I get the belief that I can't be wealthy, and why am I spending so much money on this particular thing? Why do I have this particular habit that is actually impoverishing me? Why do I have that? Once you look at yourself and you become aware that, you know what, I think I'm responsive, or I'm reacting to this particular thing, but why am I reacting to it? It goes back to your childhood, it goes back to how you were raised, it goes back to how you look at life, because most people never ask themselves, how do I think about life? What are my belief systems about life? What are my philosophies about life? That means how do I...
So do you at Key Wealth have some sort of system, or if you like, a workbook for people to work through this?
Yes, because it's basically self-awareness. It's the ability to know what makes you tick. It's the ability to know that your emotions play a bigger role in the decisions you make.
Do you hold the participants by hand?
We do have a program. We do have a program that can help you, get over this. But you see, like I'm saying, it all goes back to knowing. You see, they say knowledge is power, but knowledge about yourself is self-empowerment. Once you know who you are, and the habits you have, and once you know that I'm spending money on this thing because I have this particular habit, then you are able to say, okay, I think I'm going to look at myself and build new habits, and that's basically it. Because then who you are is what makes you achieve what you. It's even Albert Einstein said insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. He also said in most cases we're trying to find solutions with the same thinking that we used to create the problem. Meaning that we haven't introduced new information in our mind. And you know, when you talk about emotional intelligence, it's very funny that people think I am the way I am and I can't change.
Yeah, somehow.
To a point where people will say, I'll say it in Setswana and I'll translate it. So you see that there's a person celebrating ignorance.
Is an angry person.
I'm an angry person because they're trying to reaffirm that addiction.
They take ownership.
They take ownership, and that in itself it's a problem because then it means you are letting your emotion control you.
Let's talk about emotional addictions. So another business of saying Bahani.
Yeah.
Deal with your emotional addictions before attempting to create wealth.
Yeah.
So do you just sit and deal with emotions first before you start gathering?
Yeah. Look.
Or do you want to separate the two processes?
Here's the thing. Like we said, that money follows habits. Up until you deal with your emotional addictions, could be an addiction to anger, an addiction to complaining, addiction to procrastination, addiction to excuses, addiction to finding problems. You know, there are people who are good at finding problems
in everything.
You see, and the opposite is finding opportunities. No matter what you try to do, if you haven't dealt with your emotional addictions, you'll be unable to attract wealth. Because remember, they say wealth is not something that you pursue. Wealth is something that you attract by being an attractive person. That means you have to build a mindset that works well. But there's a connection between your mind and your emotions. There's a connection in terms of what emotions are you addicted to, and how do you behave in a certain way? Because look, that's the reason why the poor always become poor and the rich always become rich. There's a certain frequency that the rich.
There's a certain helplessness in that statement. Why do you say the poor will always be poor?
Because of the thinking, because of the emotions, because of the
behavior. Unless they change their thinking.
Thank you very much. Unless they change. You know what I realized over a certain time, and even after I started being a friend to you, and I'm privileged to be that. I've started realizing that successful people vibrate at a certain frequency. And I told people when I present, I tell people that most self-made people they've changed the way they look at things, and they started attracting wealth, and they are so humble because humility is one of the most important things. Now they start looking at life in a different way. They start engaging the laws of nature and the laws of the universe. Right now I'm a student of nature, the universe, and the mind. That's why right now I know about things like quantum physics, neuroscience, epigenetics. I learned those things, but I wasn't taught those things when I was growing.
Epigenetics?
I think can I explain this in the next video?
Okay.
But it has a lot to do with our, the genes and how we can, rewire and learn and relearn.
So you are hungry. You're really hungry for knowledge. You're like a sponge. You're like me.
Yes.
You're always looking for opportunities.
Here's the thing: the mind in itself is like a garden. If you don't plow in your garden, what comes out? Weeds. So it means that the mind cannot, negative energy cannot exist, and negative thoughts cannot exist at the same time as positive thoughts. So you have to remove certain negative thoughts to install the other one. But it has to happen at the same time. So for example, we're talking about emotions here and talking about addictions, right? So here's and also just building a new mindset of creating wealth. If let's say you realize that I have a habit of complaining, for you to uninstall that habit, you have to install maybe a habit of attitude of gratitude. And like I was talking about humility. One thing that I learned over time is being humble can help you acquire so many things. I've bought so many plots because I respected everyone. People become arrogant if let's say
opportunities,
and they lose opportunities. Why? Because by the way, if you find someone who's arrogant, they kind of are not used to it. So you need to build yourself.
That takes me to my next point, number 9. Be sure that the numbers make sense and be analytical. What does that got to do with emotional intelligence?
So it has to do with it because when you're analytical, you're making rational decisions. I see people, for example, because we've got the hunger to buy bigger houses and bigger cars. The first mortgage, you're told that you qualify for $1 million. You go out and look for a house that is valued $1 million.
Someone can say that's ambition. So
it's ambition, but that puts you into debt. Unless if you're using your own money, then it's ambition. But if you're using debt, then it's a trap.
Some would
it's
say,
a
look,
slaving.
it's leverage. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, leverage. How are you going to leverage?
Donald Trump
maximizing?
says he's a king of debt, so he's not a
Yes, debt is good. I'm not saying debt is bad.
Yeah.
I'm saying that if you qualify for $1 million and you go take a house that is valued $1 million, then clearly it means that you can't invest in the next house, because was the only money that you qualify for.
Yeah.
But if you qualify for $1 million, and then you go out and say that's why I'm saying the numbers make sense. If you say, okay, how can I make sure
I agree with you, by the way.
I'm just
trying to.
I like
Yeah.
yeah. So if you qualify for $1 million, for example, I always say I don't like owning a house. I like owning houses. Why? Because in that $1 million I can actually have more 3, 4, 5 houses. If you plan. How can I make sure that $1 million that I get as debt, I am paying 10,000 pula to the bank. I'm getting maybe 9,000 pula back from rental. There's a guy called Grant Cardone. He talks about
him, yeah.
You know him? He talks about
I know him online.
Yes.
Personally, yeah.
Not personally. A lot of us know people online. I mean, I can say I know Jay-Z, but I've never met Jay-Z.
Yeah.
So you see, the reason I'm saying the numbers may have to make sense. Like I was giving an example of Grant Cardone. He says, with him, he likes renting because his concept is rent where I live and own where I rent out. What am I saying by that? How do you make sure that whatever money that goes out of your pocket, there's something that is returning? So that's what I'm saying. So the numbers must make sense. Instead of attaching emotions to a house, instead of attaching emotions to a thing that you want,
never fall in love with a house. Me in the real estate space, that's a golden rule.
Yes.
Then we go out and look for possible acquisitions.
Yeah.
Golden rule, and I always remind the guys, members of the acquisition team, never fall in love with a deal.
Yes.
You are there to clinically analyze the numbers and see whether it makes sense, but don't fall in love.
Don't fall in love, because the numbers will always tell you that you are making a mistake, but because emotions are too strong, you end up letting the emotions win, and the emotions will be telling you, you need this, while you really want it, not need it.
Number 10, learn to delay your gratification. What's the importance of delayed gratification, or relevance to emotion?
Because we live in this world of instant gratification, as you always mention. Instant gratification is pivoted from the need that I want this thing right now. And I want this thing right now. It's a fulfillment kind of thing. I want it because I want to fulfill me needing it. And in that, you get into a trap, because you buy things that really don't make sense. But if you delay your gratification, you'll be able to make rational decisions that, okay, I don't have to buy a bigger car right now. Progressively, I can build rental income before I buy a bigger car, because then the money that I used to buy a bigger car could have been invested in that rental income. Just to give an example, because you see, there are many things that after you buy, you realize that I think I made a mistake, because I bought it because I wanted it right now. I remember I made a huge mistake when, after I bought from my parents, I then filled the house with high purchase with so much furniture, and then I bought it through high purchase, and the debt ballooned, because when I looked at what I bought as compared to what they said I owed, I realized that no, I didn't sign up for this. I mean, I bought things at about 25,000, but then I owed the furniture 100,000 because it's compound interest. And I was like, if I could have delayed, I would have saved money, because I would have maybe spent the same 25,000, but in a period of time, instead of now having to pay someone 100,000 because I failed to delay my gratification.
We've covered our 10 points now. We're talking about number 11, which is a bonus. Dear listeners, you know, if we are regular with this show, we always throw at you a bonus. And the bonus for this week, or for this show, is practice gratitude. Seek the help of a psychotherapist or counselor. Is it a psychotherapist or is it a financial planner that you need?
When you talk about emotions, because we say emotions are end results of past experiences. And by the way, just on the side about emotional intelligence, in most cases we anticipate worst case scenario based on past experiences. Hence now we always live in lack. We never get fulfilled, and we don't practice attitude of gratitude. Hence we always find ourselves in so many traps. So to really deal with your emotional issues, the best person to see would be, like you said earlier, Mastrello, because we work with her in terms
a
of
therapist.
She's a counselor and life coach.
Yeah.
There are also counselors, there are also psychotherapists, or people that are specialized in that. Like we said,
She must come to this show.
Definitely, I will.
Yeah, please send her. She's got an open invitation.
She will come through. I work with her, so I'll be able to invite her.
Yeah.
So you see the counselor, so that you deal with your issues before you can now come to us, and then we talk about creating wealth. We can talk about the financial education, the emotional intelligence of finance. But if it's habits that are hardwired that you need to deal with, because
ingrained, yeah.
Yes, because some of us were spending money to hide in our own cocoon, if I'm using the right way.
Yeah, you are.
We've got this fears. Like I was saying, we anticipate worst case scenarios based on past experience. So we are trying to hide behind spending money. So we're always in this fear that for example, if I don't spend money on this person, they're gonna leave me because my ex person left me.
How do you as KeyWealth help a person find a psychotherapist or a counselor?
We've got a database of them, and we work with them because we have programs as employee assistant programs that we work with our financial counselors, and we work with psychosocial counselors, so we can help and point you in the right direction.
So as we conclude, are you saying you can never be wealthy if you are unintelligent emotionally?
Remember the first or second nugget was saying personal finance is 80% behavior and 20% knowledge. We can teach you everything, but if you haven't dealt with your habits, if you haven't dealt with your emotional intelligence, it will be difficult for you not only to build but to sustain the wealth and be able, because see, things like perseverance, things like resilience, things like the ability to manage difficult situation, how do you survive in the face of adversity?
They make all the difference.
They make all the difference.
Those habits,
for people that are running businesses, for people that are going through debt, because you see, for example, in the matter between sometimes can threaten you. So difficult situations can actually either break you or build you. So it's a matter of how do you face, how do you respond when you're faced with a difficult situation, because it needs emotional intelligence.
As we conclude, can you tell the listener where you can be contacted, your contact details once again?
Yes, KeyWealth, once more. As you know, when on radio we always share this, and I think people must call, and they've been calling, by the way. We've been getting good business because we specialize in different things: your team building, your financial well-being workshops, your different training that is accredited by BQA, and also we're an investment advisory, and we're also an insurance broker under the risk management. So you can call us at 398-0321, 398-0321, or just drop us an email at info@keywealth.co.bw. You can follow me on Facebook, Mohomuzi France Speaks. I also have a profile, Mohomuzi Patrick France, and KeyWealth. We have a page, it's called KeyWealth. Key Oloto Lang and Wealth Wakumo. It's key for the key. You unlock, we're unlocking your financial success. So go ahead and follow us. And by the way, you should also subscribe to Mohobe Nuggets of Wisdom.
You must. It's absolutely
definitely.
So that we can continue.
And I think the page has grown. I've seen ever since the last two videos that we did.
Around 500 now.
Which is a good. It's a good growth.
It remains for me to thank you for being such a generous.
Thank you very much.
Guest. You share your wisdom so generously. This is what the Nuggets are all about. So please, when we invite you again, do come.
Definitely.
Do bring Master Chilo along next
We'll definitely do that. That's the Corona high five.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.